The backstage air felt cold, colder than the heavy curtains that swayed with every breath of the theater. Jessica Sanchez stood alone in a small corner, her hands gently gripping the microphone like it was the last fragile piece of her life she could still control. The stage lights leaked through the gaps in the curtains, pouring gold across her shoes. It should have felt magical, but all Jessica could feel was the thundering of her own heartbeat, too loud for her chest, too loud for the world. Her mother used to say, "When your heart shakes like this, it's not fear, it's your dream trying to wake up." But her mother wasn't here anymore. Jessica closed her eyes. She could still remember the faint sound of her mother humming at night, the way her voice rose and fell like gentle waves. That melody had become her comfort blanket, the lullaby that stayed with her through every drowning day. Contestant Jessica Sanchez. A crew member called. Jessica inhaled sharply. "Yes, I'm here. 2 minutes. Be ready." Her palms instantly grew warm, then cold. 2 minutes. 2 minutes before she stepped into the brightest moment of her life, or the most painful one. She didn't know which yet. She pressed her fingers lightly over the microphone, whispering to it like she whispered to God every night. "Let me make her proud today." For years, Jessica had watched AGT from the couch of a tiny 2-room apartment, where hope often felt too expensive. Her mother would point at the stage and say, "One day, Mija, that will be you. And when you sing, I will hear you even from heaven." Jessica never believed that anything so big could happen to someone as small as her. But now she was here. On the exact stage her mother had dreamed of for her. The curtains suddenly shifted, and Jessica saw a glimpse of the judge's table. Simon Cowell's familiar stoic expression. Howie's curious eyes. Heidi leaning slightly forward as if already waiting for a story. And then Sofia Vergara, smiling softly, tapping her fingers on the table like she was humming a secret tune. Jessica's breath hitched. Sofia had always been her mother's favorite judge. Another wave of anxiety trembled through her. She felt as if her entire body was made of paper, thin, terrible, weak. What if her voice cracked? What if her story wasn't enough? What if she failed in front of millions of people? What if this chance slipped through her fingers the way everything else had? Her throat tightened. "Mom, I don't know if I can do this," she whispered silently. Behind her, footsteps approached, her little brother, Mateo. Only 10 years old, still carrying that innocence that pain hadn't yet touched. "You can do it," he said softly, tugging her sleeve. "Mom would be yelling at you if you said that." He puffed out his chest and mimicked their mother's voice. "Jessica, your voice is a gift. Don't hide it, let the world hear it." Jessica let out a shaky laugh through the tears forming in her eyes. Mateo always knew how to break the sadness just enough so she could breathe again. She knelt and hugged him tightly. His small arms wrapped around her neck like a promise she wished she could freeze forever. "No matter what happens," she whispered, "I'm singing this for her. And for yourself," he added. The stage manager signaled again. "Jessica, let's go." Her heart rose to her throat. She stood, wiped her palms on her dress, and stepped forward. The curtain, heavy and dark, felt like a door she needed to walk through, like a chapter she had to close. She paused. One last breath. Then she stepped onto the stage. The brightness hit her instantly, so blinding she had to squint. The crowd roared faintly, like a distant storm. The judges looked up. For a second, Jessica felt her voice disappear. Completely. She couldn't swallow, couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Finally, Simon spoke. "What's your name?" Jessica Sanchez," she managed. "What are you going to do for us today?" Heidi asked warmly. "I'm going to sing, something very close to my heart." Sophia leaned forward. "We're excited to hear you." Jessica inhaled again, her lungs trembling. The music began, soft piano, delicate, almost like a heartbeat. Her mother's lullaby echoed in her mind. And then she sang. At first, her voice was quiet, fragile, like a bird unsure if it could fly. But with every line, the memories flooded back, dinner table laughter, late-night singing lessons, the way her mother would squeeze her hand before every school performance. The emotions swelled inside her, bursting through her voice like a storm finally allowed to rain. The theater became silent. Not a single cough, not a whisper, only her voice rising, breaking, healing, and then rising again. Sophia's eyes softened. Heidi's lips parted in awe. Even Simon leaned back, studying her like she was something rare. Something precious. Halfway through the song, Jessica's throat tightened with grief, and her voice trembled. She closed her eyes desperately, fighting the tears. She didn't want to cry. Not here. Not now. But then she felt something warm, a presence. She didn't know if it was heaven or hope or simply her own courage finally returning. But she found strength. Her voice roared into the theater, powerful, haunting, aching and yet full of life. By the final note, the crowd erupted. People stood. Some wiped tears. Judges stared in stunned silence. But Jessica didn't see any of that. She was crying quietly, gripping the microphone as if afraid she'd fall apart without it. And then she heard Sophia's voice, soft, emotional. "Jessica," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "That was beautiful." Jessica blinked, trying to breathe. "You remind me," Sophia continued, "of why we watch this show. You have a story. You have pain. But more than that, you have a gift that can heal others." Jessica covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Sophia stood. And before anyone processed what was happening, she placed her hand above the golden buzzer. "This is for your mother." Then she slammed it. One bright, golden explosion. Confetti burst into the air like 1,000 tiny suns raining down. The crowd erupted again, louder, wilder, emotional. Jessica gasped, sobbing uncontrollably, her knees almost giving out. Matteo ran onto the stage, hugging her tightly. The gold rained on both of them, siblings covered in hope, in dreams, in the magic of a moment that would live forever. She looked up through tears, imagining her mother somewhere above the confetti, smiling. She had done it. She had finally done it. The world outside the theater was different after the golden buzzer. Brighter, louder. But strangely, Jessica felt calmer, as if something inside her had finally settled. The morning after the audition aired, her phone buzzed nonstop. Notifications flooded every corner of the screen. Messages from relatives she hadn't spoken to in years, teachers, friends, strangers from across the world. "You moved me to tears. Your mom would be so proud. Your voice healed something in me." Jessica wasn't used to this much attention. She wasn't used to being seen at all. Growing up, she often hid behind her mother during family gatherings, her shyness always winning. But now, the world knew her name, her pain, her voice, and it was overwhelming. She sat quietly in her small bedroom smelling faintly of old perfume and laundry soap. Matteo lay asleep on the sofa in the next room. Their aunt was in the kitchen, humming while making breakfast. Life felt normal, but Jessica's mind was spinning far beyond the walls of the apartment. A knock sounded. "Come in," she said softly. Her aunt peeked inside. "You okay?" Jessica nodded, though her eyes said otherwise. Her aunt sat beside her. "Your mother would be over the moon right now." Jessica swallowed hard. "I keep wishing she could have seen it." "Oh, she saw it," her aunt whispered, placing a hand on her shoulder. She didn't miss a second. Tears filled Jessica's eyes again, but this time they didn't burn. They felt warm, healing. Later that day, she received an unexpected email from the AGT production team. "Come tomorrow for your interview and rehearsal." Her heart fluttered. It was happening already. The studio the next day felt different. More familiar. Less intimidating. As she walked down the hallway, a few crew members smiled and congratulated her. Some even whispered, "You made me cry last night." It was surreal. Inside a small lounge, she waited nervously for her interview section to begin. Cameras, microphones, lights, all set up. "Jessica," a producer said warmly, "we just want you to talk about your journey. Whatever you feel comfortable sharing." She nodded. When the camera started, Jessica took a deep breath. "I didn't come from much," she began. "But I came from love. My mom, she believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. She worked 2 jobs just to afford my music lessons. Even on nights she was exhausted, she'd still practice with me." Her voice cracked. "When she passed, singing felt impossible. It hurt too much. But then, I started feeling like maybe singing was the only way to keep her close." She paused, wiping her eyes. "So when I stepped on that stage, I wasn't alone. She was with me." Later, she walked into rehearsal room 4B. A piano sat in the center. Music sheets scattered on top. A vocal coach greeted her with a warm smile. "You ready to work?" "Yes," Jessica said, surprising herself with how confident she sounded. For the next hour, she practiced tirelessly. High notes, lower tones, Emotional phrasing. Breath control. Her voice soared, cracked, healed, and soared again. At one point, the coach stopped, placing a hand on her shoulder. You have something special, Jessica. Not because you sing perfectly, but because you make people feel. Jessica looked down, her eyes softening. That's what my mom wanted me to do. Then honor her. Every single time you open your mouth. Jessica nodded. After rehearsal, she wandered backstage again. The empty theater stared back at her, thousands of seats, all silent. She walked slowly to the center of the stage, standing exactly where she had been during her audition. She closed her eyes. I hope you're watching, Mom. She let a single note slip out, a soft, trembling hum. The theater caught it, echoed it, multiplied it. Her voice filled the space completely, like light pouring into darkness. She smiled through tears. For the first time in her life, she wasn't scared of the stage anymore. When she returned home that evening, Matteo ran to her with a crumpled piece of paper. I made you something, he said proudly. Jessica opened it gently. It was a drawing, a stick figure version of her standing under golden confetti. Above her, a small angel figure with curly hair hovered, smiling. Mom, Jessica whispered, touching the paper. Matteo nodded. She's dancing because you sang so good. Jessica hugged him tightly, tears slipping silently down her cheek. I'm going to keep singing, she whispered. For her, for us, for everyone who needs to hear something hopeful. Matteo squeezed her back. I always knew you would. A week later, as the AGT episode replayed on TV screens across the country, Jessica sat on the couch, curled up with a blanket, Matteo beside her. Her golden moment flashed across the screen again. The trembling start, the swelling climax, the confetti explosion. The smile on Sophia's face. The tears in the audience. Jessica's own sobs as she clung to Matteo under the golden rain. She watched herself cry on stage, but this time she didn't feel embarrassed. She didn't feel afraid. She felt strong. Mom would be proud, Matteo whispered, resting his head on her shoulder. Jessica nodded. She would. The screen faded to black. Jessica closed her eyes. Tomorrow, the world would hear her sing again. And this time, she didn't just carry her mother in her heart. She carried the world's hope too.